And now I would like to invite Georgina Voss, a British artist and educator who works with performance, visual media and multimedia installations. Initially, she was trained in industrial economics and science policy, although her work now differs greatly. She still engages with topics concerning how technology, policy and culture intersect. Georgina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good. So, thank you so much for the very kind introduction. It is lovely to be here. So I got up at about 3:20 in the morning on Thursday morning, and about 15 minutes after that I got into a taxi waiting outside my apartment in London, which drove me to Heathrow Airport in time for my flight, which left London at around 6 a.m. in the morning. I took a taxi because public transport wasn't running at that time, that early, and looking at the departure boards, I think that mine was the first flight out of Heathrow that morning. So this was a really early start. We took off in the dark, and I got a window seat for the flight, and spent most of the flight coming over here, staring out at the window, watching, as you can see, the sun coming up very slowly over the clouds, over the Channel, over France, over Belgium, and then over here, and you can kind of see that point where the dark is turning into the light. So time is very, very strange on journeys. It's kind of suspended. And I mean, wherever you are, whatever you're traveling in, whether it's a plane or a train, moves, and you move with it, but you are also fixed in space. So no one is jumping out of a plane mid-flight. No one leaves a spaceship unless they're fixing the ship or unless they're an alien xenomorph being ejected into deep space. And this suspension was what I wanted to talk to you about this morning, this experience of time on the journey. So we've been talking about journeys today, and also creativity and art and practice and materiality and sound and listening. And creativity itself is often described as a journey. It's something that we travel along, and something which we explore, and something which, as we've heard, changes us. But at the same time, creativity is increasingly being framed by tools which encourage us to get there quickly and painlessly, frictionless, seamless. And this, from all the bits of the work that I do today, that's been itching at my brain. So I'm not particularly going to talk about my practice today for the next 18 minutes and 3 seconds. We can talk about that in the discussion afterwards, because with this time I've got with us all in the room together, what I want to do today is I want you to imagine that you're going on a journey with me, that we're all going on a journey together. So just imagine that. This will be a very, very long journey. We might be traveling by boat or by plane or by train or by spaceship. Whatever it is something which is sturdy enough to take us there and to withstand the brute forces of the ocean or deep space or whatever the medium is that we're traveling on or through. The course is set. So imagine. We head on board, we find our seats or the cabin that we're going to be spending our time in. Perhaps our tickets are going to be checked one last time, and then that's it. The doors are locked, we have clearance to leave, and then we're off. Hopefully, we're lucky enough to have windows to look out of, or we can see the world or deep space or the sea or whatever it is rushing past. But my question as we start this journey together is, what does time feel like whilst we're here? So probably a better question to start with then is, which time? There are lots of different types of time. So let's start with something obvious, which is calendar time. So let us now put up on the walls of our cabin or by our seats a calendar. This journey is going to take a long time, and a calendar is comfortingly structural. It will split time into units of days and weeks and months and years, and it's a long journey. So with our calendar, we will always know what day it is, and we will know when to celebrate our birthdays. We might have several of our birthdays on this very long journey together. All right, what else? Well, time is also seasonal. If we have a window and we're travelling over land, we can make a good guess at whether it's spring or summer or autumn or winter. Sensing seasons is a little easier when we're in one place. We can tell when a season is here by the scent of the air or the soil. We can think about whether we need a raincoat to leave the house. Every season has its own feeling too. Summer can be long, lazy days of heat and enchantment, and winter can have its long nights of cold and dark and hibernation. But calendar time relies on the relationship between the position of the Earth and the position of the Sun. So what if we're not on Earth? What if we're on a spaceship looking out of the window? So that might not tell us a huge amount about what the seasons are, and that might affect our mood as well. So maybe we can now ask the bioengineers on board to build us artificial seasons. Maybe they can build us in one particular room some forests, they can grow some trees, there'll be snow, it'll be cold, there'll be that chill in the air. Maybe we want summer, maybe that would be pleasant. Can we cherry pick the seasons that we want? Can we have on our ship, on our boat, wherever we're travelling, eternal summer and no winter at all? Or is it necessary for the human condition to experience cold and dark? Or does that make implications about what type of seasons we feel? But okay, so we have calendars and we have seasons, and that means that we can also experience festive time on our long voyage, and I think that we might need it. We can celebrate Christmas or Eid or Pesach or weddings or funerals or deaths or divorces or anything else really that we want to. We can celebrate harvests or full moons. We can find things to celebrate on our journey. We can celebrate in the deep dark of the void outside. We can celebrate the life inside our ship. Festival time is a socially sanctioned time of enchantment, and I think that as we travel, as we are contained, we might need that to keep us going. So, I mean, this all sounds pretty great, right? It sounds like we're going to have a really nice time on our journey. Except that, and I hate to break it to you, there is probably some work to be done on our very long journey. And if we have work, we have functional time. Functional time is preset and imposed, and it is the time during which tasks must be done. If we have a school on board, whatever we're travelling on, this is when students will have their lessons at a specific time, for a specific amount of time. If we're doing work, this might be the point where we go to work and come back from work, somehow in our vessel. Functional time is extractive. It takes our time from us and puts it to use in a way that we might not have chosen and which we have no choice about. We may have chosen to do work, but at our own pace and in our own time. And under functional time, our own time is repurposed. It can make us feel like we never have enough time. After we've clocked in and clocked out, well then what's left for us? Because really, when we're talking about functional time, we're talking about clocks. So, I mean, of course we have clocks on our journey. Maybe they're on our phones or in our computers, maybe we have a big one on the wall. I mean, of course there are clocks, there are always clocks, and the clocks will keep time, but for who? Lewis Mumford describes how the clock is the invention of industrial society, and that's us. All other forms of time, the ones we've mentioned, they still exist, as they always have done, layered into each other, but now they have become flattened under one heavy layer, the clock. The clock orients our lives. It disciplines. The Industrial Revolution created a form of life where work was done outside the home on a clock invented by management to create the private household, the man off to work, the woman at home raising children, and the boss's clock watching over all. Under the clock, time is now not a luxury, and now time is a unit that must be used in the pursuit of efficiency. And by efficiency, we mean fast. No wasting time, no lounging around, no looking out the window and staring into the forest. And then it gets faster. Still, after the clock, we have factories, and then later and later and later, we finally get to the period where we usher in digital time, internet time, which means fast. In a new frictionless digital age, everything can happen nearly instantaneously. Technology provides its own language and mechanistic reasoning through which the world is known. Under internet time, time is now speed, and everything can be solved with a technical fix. But what does this feel like? Now we're not experiencing time on the ship, now we're experiencing the time of the journey as it travels at speed. And digital speed, I think we can call it that, seems like it should be exhilarating. This sense of running into time, visceral and embodied, and it should feel like what sociologist John Tomlinson describes as unruly speed, a thrilling, aesthetic, and even sensuous experience which ruptures and disrupts the mundanity of life. Speed is incredibly exciting. The idea that we can accelerate creativity digitally is, I think, also predicated on the excitement and rupture of unruly speed. But moving at this speed can be overwhelming. Fast cars and motorbikes and supersonic jets are fun, but these are machines designed to be fast. And as any visual artist knows, to aesthetically represent time, there needs to be some indication of motion, a change in state. As we move faster and faster, we see less and less. No trees, no stars, only blur. And technology can operate in the blur. Even early photography could capture and process images faster than the human eye. But we can't easily perceive this speed. What we are experiencing is not a collection of moments which show the rich strangeness of the landscape that we are moving through and how it moves through us. Instead, what we see is a blur. And if, when we hand over to the machine for our journey to make life faster and more efficient, we are engaging in the real dream of speed, what sociologist John Tomlinson calls machine speed. It is based on the perceived rationality and efficiency of the machine. It allows us to comfortably switch off, safe in the knowledge that the machine will perform safely, rationally, efficiently for us. But we do not really feel anything. There is no life force here. Instead, time is suspended until we are ready to live again. Machine speed is not just travelling fast, it is travelling fast without affect, and it is numbing. So I asked you to come with me on a long journey and painted a picture of a lovely boat or a plane or a spaceship or something else, you know, that you enjoyed travelling on, and we thought about the cabins we might stay in and the festivals we might have on board and the seasons we could experience and the views we could look at out of the window. And I want to say that there is another way to take a long journey, and that is not to even experience it at all, to simply be in the mush. So now imagine, if you will, a science fiction TV show, a film, which also focuses on a very, very long journey across space. So, do our passengers, as we've talked about, do they come on board? Do they find their cabin, stick a calendar on the wall, look out the window, think about the journey? Generally, no. They come on board, they get into some kind of pod or coffin that's slightly bigger than a human. They get in, a shield closes over them, and then they are unconscious, in hypersleep or cryosleep or whatever. They are out cold, and they experience nothing. Time for them is dead. And this is a feeling I keep coming back to when I think about creativity and art being described in terms of a journey, but in a system described by efficiency, underpinned by capital, and which demands perfect, fast results now. What gets lost in the speed? The writer Mandy Brown recently asked this question. She asked, if we lose something valuable, if we use machines to snip time and to eliminate the work involved in the creation of artistic and poetic forms, what she says is no one is arguing for this seems to have really asked what is left when the work is gone. She writes, what is the experience of asking for something to appear and then instantly receiving it? What changes between the thought and the manifestation? I fear that nothing changes, that nothing is changed in a making, least of all ourselves. And this cryosleep is always the beginning or the end of stories about deep space travel. And it's never the actual story itself, because it can't be, because the major characters are unconscious. They might as well be dead, except in a way they're not even contributing anything to the story. As Mandy Brown writes, even the dead make change in the world as their bodies decay and are transformed into food for beasts and bugs and trees. But in eliminating the effort, in refusing the temporality of making, the outcome of an AI-driven creative process is a phantasm, an unsubstantiality, something that passes through the world. We need time to experience our journey, but to give meaning to because forms of time carry meaning. Drama writers know this very well. As the playwright Steve Waters says, The authority of a theatrical moment, its authenticity and power to move the viewer to belief, is grounded in the exquisite sense of time possessed by the writer. And, as we've mentioned earlier, there is even a type of storytelling which focuses on people who are kept in one place over the course of a journey. And this is the bottle episode, named after a ship in a bottle. It is based on one set, on a room in a spaceship, for example, where you can find bottle episodes used a lot in science fiction because they're often used as a way to kind of grab back the money that has otherwise been spent on the expensive parts of production, like special effects. When you keep people in one place, you can show it cheaply. But bottle episodes, people being kept in one place, are very intense. They can be slow-moving, or drawn out, or emotionally potent. By the time that a bottle episode takes place, the world in which the drama takes place itself has already been established. The story is grounded firmly in its own premise and the dialogue set up in the script, and in the performances of the actors. These episodes are emotionally intense. They work with the richness and depth found in that constrained space where the drama comes through from a tight focus on a small part of it. Watching an episode, which is a bottle episode, requires attention and focus. And because of this intensity, they are the absolute opposite of hypersleep. And this sense of being in the time that we have, I think, and expanding it through this focus in our work is part of the creative practice and artistic expression and part of the human condition. The writer Kate Wagner, who originally trained in music, says, "Writing for me is a way of thinking and making meaning in the world. This is its primary function, especially if that writing is not productive. Every time I write something, it is a form of practice. The musician practices many things simultaneously, the work, but also material ancillary to the work, such as scales or arpeggios. The musician also practices old work, improvises, or otherwise plays for pleasure. And in other ways, that makes practice bearable. Practice is tautological. I learned to write in order to write. And in order to write, I have to keep writing, which is the only way to get better at writing." And this is, I think, a form of pastoral time, where the outside concerns are suspended. Narrative time withdraws. And if this is a play, then we can focus on the characters. And if this is our lives, then we can, and our creative process, then we can exist within that time for ourselves. As one of the characters in William Shakespeare's play, As You Like It, says, "There is no clock in the forest." So, on Thursday morning, 2 days ago, we arrived in Prague just before 9 a.m. This is the landing. And it's taken about till this morning, today, to get my body clock back to normal. Eventually, the journey ends. The bottle episode comes to a close. Time resumes. And time is all we have, really, contained within this human lifespan. We are all getting older, and one day, our ship will sail off the end of the world. We are disciplined by societal and institutional beliefs in time, and let's not pretend otherwise, really. I think, but to think of creative practice and that practice itself can exist in the flattest slice of accelerated time and the obliteration of the knowledge and consciousness that comes out of expanded time, you know, we might as well be in hypersleep, and I would prefer to do things otherwise. Thank you very much.